So thank you very much for your time, for our readers. Here Malcom Poyntom from Cheil. He has already talked about the new advertising language,
yes,
and the new advertising creativity at El Sol Festival 2018. First of all, I'd like to locate you within your long career, because you are now at Cheil,
yes,
but you have many experience, a lot of experience in other agencies. There was something before and something that has changed after working in Sapient.
yes, yeah. So I think, well, perhaps for me, it feels like not such a long career, but certainly leaving New Zealand, working in the UK with M&C Saatchi and Saatchi and Ogilvy were great experiences. But after we launched the Campaign for Real Beauty, which was the world's first advertising campaign whose end line was a URL, campaignforrealbeauty.com, it really piqued my interest more about where people were going with this whole technology thing that was starting to happen. And really the response to that campaign was in digital forums at that stage. But it was proving really, really hard with the traditional agency model to really go after that to the extent that made sense. So there was an opportunity to join Sapient at a time where they were evolving from being just a tech consultancy into a company that was embracing creativity, and they'd bought a small advertising agency named Nitro to try and spearhead that. So what was fascinating about that journey was that I had some very, very close friends in advertising who said I was, certifiably mad to be doing this. It wasn't the advertising industry, but I've always had this curiosity about things, and that really drove me into that space. And I learned, in truth, so much more about technology than I would ever need or apply it today from a foundational platform point of view of big enterprise technology. But at the same time, it's given me an understanding of how that plays a big role for major companies, retailers especially. But more importantly, on top of that, I learned a lot about all the agile technologies that we use and how we can hack and modify things to fulfill creative visions and opportunities for brands.
You talk about a change in the language of advertising.
Yes.
You referred to the East.
Yes.
But I wonder if also tech is a part of the change in the language itself.
It certainly is. I think, technology is being imbued in advertising in so many different ways, and I feel that we've had an obsession, and the marketing community's had an obsession over technology in a perhaps more prosaic and less exciting way when they talk about programmatic and things like that. Well, the truth is, programmatic does stifle creativity, but that's not what technology is about. That's just one strand of technology someone's applied to optimize some form of marketing. And the truth is that that's nowhere near as strong a performance as what many people might suspect. The magic of creativity will always give you a greater return. There's so much evidence to that. And I think what we're starting to see is we're opening up people's eyes and minds and ultimately their hearts to brands in ways that we couldn't before through technology. So I demonstrated today some of the examples we've created using virtual reality, which take people to a place where they will be emoting in ways that we've never seen elicited through film. So, literally screaming, shouting, and bringing people to tears and moving them in different ways. And, a couple of years ago, chairing the mobile jury at Cannes, we awarded the Grand Prix to the New York Times Virtual Reality Journalism. And at the time I said, I'd read more than 500 articles about the plight of refugees, but in watching one virtual reality film called The Displaced of 3 13-year-old refugees, I had more empathy, more understanding, and a far greater knowledge of what the whole refugee situation was globally than what I had from reading over 500 articles. It's that powerful.
You've talked also at the conference about utility.
Yes.
Linked with creativity.
Yeah.
So this is the new way, not only for Samsung but for other. That applies to other brands or not. Is a way for Samsung.
I think it applies to many brands. And look, I should say, none of this actually should come at the expense of the incredible ability we have through traditional media of out of home, which has now become digital, or through film and the language of film, which will always be incredibly powerful. This is on top of. So I think we often get caught up in it, like, is this thing better than that thing? Well, at a point, they're probably different. And what my sense is that our language in advertising needs to evolve and change far more quickly. We see other industries changing from fashion to automotive at a pace that is far quicker than us. And I think for some reason, we've been quite slow to really truly understand what we can do with technology and what we can do with utilities for brands to play a more meaningful role in people's lives. And now it's so important because we know the millennial and the Gen X tribes really are not satisfied with brands who just take from society or brands who just pollute the world. They want brands who are actually going to be doing meaningful things and contributing positively. And utility is a big part of that, particularly when it's done in a way that actually is effortless. And if we can do things that are effortless for consumers, you get that little bit more of their kind of mind space and heart space.
You have taken part also in the changing communication by Dove with the Real Beauty campaign. Yeah. So how did you get that insight to create so many nice advertising related to women and other men, including men, and bringing brand to the ground?
So the truth
and
is
connect.
With Dove and with Unilever, there was more than a 2-year research program conducted with academic institutions on both sides of the Atlantic and quite huge research groups as well. And that actually gave us what everyone talks about, big data. This had big data, of maybe an analog sort, but it had big data that, as agencies and clients at their best do, got distilled down to one really, really powerful insight. And really, ultimately, it was all about just shifting Dove from the cleansing category into the beauty industry, which is a very audacious move on Unilever's behalf, given the meager budget they had compared to the L'Oreals and the big beauty brands. But with the objective of just broadening that stereotype of beauty by the few percent that would empower women. And in that was the opportunity for Dove to play a meaningful role in their life and those products to do so in a natural way. And I think, this is true of all, great brands and great communication. We find insights that may take 2 or 3 years to get to. We bring them down to a very meaningful point, and then we amplify this in such a way that it touches people's hearts.
You talk about the case of India.
Yes.
They like their brands.
They do.
They surely like they love. But I don't know if there's the same case in other Asian countries.
I think it's a very interesting and rich geography in the world, Asia, and the cultures are very different. So you do get some cultures where there is real affection for brands in ways that goes far beyond what we're used to in the West, and you also get countries and geographies there that brands are a very new thing. So they're developing relationships with them. I think, if you look to markets where brands are much more recent in history, like China, there are certain brands like WeChat, which plays such an important role in people's lives. And it is a utility, like we spoke to earlier, but it is all very creative, and it kind of runs campaigns and programs and things for people to connect. Red Letter Day and transactions and things that go on within WeChat, which means that it's built a great emotional place in that culture as well. So we're seeing that develop in cultures at different pace and speed, but certainly there are others like India where brands are really, really, not just liked, they're adored by people.
Just 3 questions more. In which way are you looking at the East to source inspiration? Personally.
For me, my fascination with all things that are happening in the East is to do with 2 things primarily. The pace at which things can change and develop there. So I think that the beauty of not accepting obstacles, of finding ways above, around, beneath, those obstacles to manifest, change and progress. And secondly, this kind of unblinkered view of genuinely anything's possible. And I think it's an interesting way. The words don't do justice to what the attitude is, frankly. So we talk about, and I think we've maybe trivialized in some ways the meaning of it when we talk about nothing is impossible, or as Adidas's brand had, impossible is nothing. That attitude is really meaningful when you live it. It kind of means something to us in terms of words, but when you grow up in a society where you've got such density of population or such meager existence for a lot of people that you really have to strive, you have to find ways around the seemingly impossible. Half of it's in the attitude and the mindset that allows you to live that way and to really genuinely embrace it. And I think that's actually a lot of what people find sustenance in to get through the chaotic situations that they're confronted with every day. So when we travel for leisure and people find themselves in the middle of Delhi or Mumbai or in the middle of Beijing or Shanghai, it can be overwhelming. But for the people who live there, that's the scramble every day. And if you let it overwhelm you, you could have a pretty, I would say challenging existence. But they don't. Those seeming impossibilities of getting from A to B or living this way or that melt away because of the attitude.
In your opinion, is there anything in Samsung that make this company, leaving aside the other companies that work for it, making this company the creative advertiser of the year in so many times?
I think genuinely what sits behind
Which
Samsung,
is the ingredient?
Yeah, the ingredient for me that sits behind everything in Samsung is truly about playing a meaningful role to help progress in society. And that means universally, every country in the world, whatever is happening, they're finding ways of unlocking creativity and technology together to create things that help society live more prosperously or progress in different ways. And that really is lived and breathed in every market around the world with Samsung.
If you had just money to choose between a very great idea and a great technology, which one would you choose?
Well, my answer to that is every great technology is a great idea. For me, the idea is paramount.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.